Shoot.
Hey, welcome to Duke and Howie. This is Duke, that's Howie. Today we're going to be talking about some awesome things on this podcast. We're going to be talking about Kenya and everything that we have done in our travels in the world and everything else that we don't even know of. So there's my intro, Howie.
That was good. That wasn't so bad. For a first timer, I think you did all right.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I practiced.
Did
once.
you? You practiced
Once.
in the mirror? Oh, one time.
Yeah, normally when I'll get out of the shower and I'll stare at myself in the mirror and say, "Hello, you're listening to Duke and Howie."
Yeah, I did that the other night. I was laying in bed and I did a practiced intro.
You just sung yourself to sleep. That sweet melody.
Laying in bed. Hello, welcome to the.
All right, man. So today when we talked on the phone, you said that you wanted to talk about our travels to Africa. If you don't know and you're listening to this, Noah and I met in an organization in Los Angeles called Youth with a Mission, and the whole idea behind the organization is to know God and make God known. So I came off of the streets, I became saved, and went into this missionary organization. Immediately, it was quite the jump. It's really crazy being on the streets, Noah, and then being amidst the most Bible thumpers I ever know. And you know what? The coolest Bible thumpers I've ever met. And I myself became one.
That's right, you did. But when we met in Los Angeles, but from Los Angeles, we went to Kenya, and we actually lived in Kenya together for 3 months. And from the way that I remember it, George, was that you and I weren't so fond of each other for the first 3 months in LA, and then even the first bit of our time in Kenya. I don't remember liking you that much. I thought we argued a lot, and we were always in competition.
You know, man, I hated anybody that had any solidness to them. Like if they were a strong, capable man, I did not want to be around that individual.
Oh my God, I was hardly as strong. I was a snobby little douchebag.
All right, since 2020, Noah, I'm sure 3 or 4 years from now, you'll be looking back being like, man, I was a snobby little D-bag. So, yeah, we didn't really like each other. No, I didn't like a lot of people, including myself at the time. I learned to love myself in that time, which was a really weird thing to learn. But, yeah, we ended up being in the group that went to Kenya. So did you always want to go to Kenya? Was that a thing that you wanted to do, or?
I've always wanted to go to Africa, yeah. But I was at this point, I was super willing because we were practicing listening to God. So we were praying and listening to God to see, to pick the place that we were going to go on outreach. And I remember praying. I remember they tricked us. Remember? They gave us
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, they were like, "All right, guys, your three options are like Hollywood, which is right down the road.
Yeah,
and all these other schools, that go before us and after us. They've been going to Thailand and Nepal and India and crazy cool places like that. And then we hear, you're going to go to Alaska, Omaha, Nebraska, and Hollywood's Boulevard or whatever.
Yeah.
And for 3 months, that's where you're going to live. And I was so ready. I was like, okay. And I ran out the door, and they were like, stop. I was going to go.
Yeah, dude, I remember that. You were really upset. You kind of, because we were supposed to pray, and then you stomped out of the little multi-purpose room that we were in at the time. You stomped out of it, and they're like, "Whoa, no, wait." They're
like, it was just a joke, and I was like, I was a little mortified that they pulled that prank on me, just because I took it so seriously.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't get along.
That's probably right. You didn't take anything seriously.
Nothing. I still, it's something I still struggle with.
Yeah. But anyways, we decided, they told us, okay, you can choose between Kenya. It was Kenya, Thailand, and China were the three. and you know, and everybody goes out. We're not allowed to talk about it with one another because we didn't want to like influence um, somebody's location or whatever by talking about it. Um, yeah, and I just remember praying, and I didn't audibly hear God say Africa. I just remember feeling like, man, I really just want to go to Africa, and I was kind of just looking for any reason or like any like Thailand would have been cool too. And at the time, like I came out of such an ignorant, like stupid little drug dealing background where I just didn't care about anything but my friends and like myself. I didn't know what what was going on in the world, and I didn't
Right.
really know what Thailand was or where Thailand was. I knew what China was, and I didn't really want to go to China. I do now, but at the time I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like fun. I just imagined it being industrial, but Thailand sounded like the jungles and like the forests. I know there's elephants in Thailand. That was cool, but I've always wanted to go to Africa. So I would say that I would equate um, my lifelong desire to go to Africa as God kind of saying, go to Kenya. I think it's the same thing, having the
Yeah.
heart for it, and so that's what I did. And then how did it happen for you, George?
You know, it was kind of crazy because when they played that joke on us, I was really upset. Before I came to YWAM, I was laying on my sister's floor in an apartment that she had in the ghetto of this little town that we lived in. And I was super hungover. I had just recently gotten saved a couple weeks prior to that, but you know, old habits die hard. And I was hungover, and then I came upon this movie called Machine Gun Preacher, and it's about this guy named Sam Childers, who was a heroin addict, who then ended up getting saved, going to Uganda, building like an orphanage there that was in a compound, and then hunting down Coney soldiers that were kidnapping other kids and then shooting them dead and taking the
Oh my
orphans.
gosh.
Yeah, it was a really intense. But he would hunt these soldiers down that were recruiting children, you know, and drugging them up and making them shoot their dads and stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew at that moment I wanted to go to Africa, and that was kind of the deal that I made with God, you know, because that's what we do when we're young Christians, I believe, is we start cracking deals with God. Hey, God, hey, I'll go do that, but I got to go to Africa. You got to send me to Africa.
Yeah.
So when they sent,
Contingency plan.
yeah, when they played that stupid joke, I was like, dude, God, what the heck, man? I was really mad. I was upset. I was going to go to Africa anyway. I was like, you know what? Screw these people. I'm going to Africa. Screw this organization. I'm not going to Omaha. But you know what? When you stormed out, I was like, that's, you know, I shared those feelings, man. I was really upset, or tried to storm out. And then when they were like, it's a joke. These are the real outreach locations.
Yeah.
I was thrilled, man. I was like, that's it. Thank you,
Dude,
Lord.
and also, there was 23 of us all together that had to choose between the three locations. So there's
Right.
23 students in this school, and yeah, it's a school. We were doing it's a discipleship training school. But really, what it is it's like it's like a pressure cooker
Yeah.
for people that want to have a better relationship with God, and people that want to grow in character, and people that it's like super comfortable but also incredibly challenging, because you're like comfortable for the first 3 months on campus in LA. It's nice, and you go to class every morning, and then you got like jobs you got to do around it's like a college campus.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty
And-
intensive.
Yeah, but then like and then you go out into Kenya for 3 months, and you're not living in the city. You might like spend a couple nights in the city, but I've been there 3 times since, and I mean, I'm talking mud huts, I'm talking concrete floors, I'm talking the backs of buses, overnight bus rides.
The little holes
Um,
that they have to squat over, those little tiny holes, and you have to aim your
Oh.
poop in them.
it's an art.
That's actually big. They're like this big. They're like squares. 'Cause they just cut them in with like a freaking. I've seen them do it with these gigantic concrete saws. They just cut them.
Well, sometimes they put like a plastic bowl
Right.
in
Like
the
like a
concrete
little like a
before
little
the garden.
funnel.
Yeah,
Yeah, the really fancy areas that I've been in were like porcelain. There's like a nice little porcelain tub,
porcelain hole.
and you take a cup and you throw water in it.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, so we joined up on the same team. Our team was pretty crazy. It was a bunch of ENFPs, extroverted, outgoing, pretty wild individuals. Man, I think that the chillest person on our
Emotional.
yeah, we're fairly emotional. We had a girl on our team that was, and she probably still is, the chillest person, and then she fit well, and so but everybody
Who are you
else was.
talking?
I'm talking about Kendall.
Kendall?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
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 she
she-
was chill.
yeah. She's pretty awesome, and so anyhow, it was a really crazy adventure. So we are on the same team. We're training. We get on the plane and we fly into Uganda, we fly into Kigali.
It was Uganda, dude.
Oh yeah, Kigali.
Um,
We flew into Kigali first.
Golly.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
And then we flew into Uganda. And when we arrived in Uganda, no, was it Kigali or Uganda where we put in that room? Do you remember?
Dude, I'm telling you,
That was
totally-
Uganda.
we totally just flew straight to Uganda from the Netherlands.
Oh, maybe I had a different one. The next time I was over, I had a different layover, I think.
Yeah, and we get to the airport in Uganda, and they literally some guy comes up, and he's got a vest on. So
There's
he
guns.
kind of looks like
There's automatic
there's-
weapons everywhere.
like old like Russian AK-47s and stuff like
Right.
that. Very cool. And
Very
and
scary.
they come up and they're like, "Give us your passports." we're like, okay.
Yeah,
we
I don't know.
handed this
I was
guy
pretty
over.
hesitant, because it was like it was so disorganized and kind of scary. There's guns everywhere. There's a lot of different things I've never seen before, like a lot of traditional Islamic garb, and I've never witnessed that in my time in the U.S., which is kind of weird. It was a weird thing to see, women in full traditional Islamic garb, head to toe, burqa, and so it was kind of scary, man. I was pretty scared at that point when they asked for our passports. I was like, this is it, dude. They're gonna round us up, put us in a room. Nobody's ever gonna hear from us again. And
They did put us in a room, and Fisher was doing push-ups.
yes, I remember that.
Yeah. That's right. It was just for a couple minutes.
No, it was, dude. We were in there for like 45 minutes.
Dude, we were at that airport for how many hours? Like
It was
8
8 or
10 hours?
9 hours, yeah.
Yeah, we were like sleeping on the floor. There was like bugs. There was like the floor was like the fake tiling, plastic, but totally coated in crushed bug.
Yeah, there's bugs everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like we were sitting there next to the window, and you could hear them. Like in the windows from the ground up, there's maybe like snow had piled up, but it was not snow. It was bugs, and I don't know. Every 2 seconds, you hear boom. It was a bug smashing into the window. It was a crazy time.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was our first experience of Africa. But they had like food and restaurants at the airport too.
Yeah, they had a Somali. Not a Somali. Man, I can't remember any of this. What are those things?
Samosas.
Samosas. Man, I'm all over the place. They had little samosa stand. That was sick.
Oh, they were so good.
Yeah.
It's like a little it's like a burrito, but it's like a deep fried flaky bread burrito with meat,
Right.
just meat and onions inside. It's very good.
So we didn't see anybody the whole time. I feel like we're the only ones there on that layover that night, and we were sleeping in shifts. Remember, because we wanted to watch our stuff. We didn't want to fall asleep, get robbed.
Yeah.
But all in all, we flew into Kenya, into Nairobi, and the cool thing about the Nairobi airport when you fly in, it's like it's a little oasis. This is how I felt anyway. So you fly into Nairobi airport. It's kind of a nice airport, It's not terrible. And this is where we meet one of the leaders for our team for the first time. His name was Bob. And so Bob picks us up in a Sacco, which is like a little van, and we go down the super long road outside of the airport, and then we experience chaos for the first time. And that's when we go into Nairobi traffic right there out of the airport. It's maybe like 2 or 3 mile stretch, and then boom, you're in Nairobi traffic.
And there's 7 of us, right? 6 or 7 of us total.
Right. None of us have been to Africa at that time.
None of us. Yeah. And Bob was this dude. He's like this this like smaller Dutch guy.
Yeah.
With curly hair. He looks like a fashion model.
Yes, if they allowed 5'5" fashion models.
He's gonna see this.
I know, Bob. I love you, Bob. You're probably one of the most extreme people I ever met. Listen, this guy is still in Kenya. He's walking village to village, helping these people out, plowing fields, teaching hydroponics. He rides motorcycles, which is like the most dangerous thing you can do in Africa, and this guy's doing incredible things. I didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You may have short stature, but you're tall in my eyes, Bob.
Oh, absolutely. And so Bob's this Dutchman who looks like he looks like a fashion model. He's nice shoes,
incredibly attractive man.
Sleek.
Yes.
And
he's
doing big things.
He's the size that all the clothes are in his size. You know what I mean? Like there's no clothes. And he has multiple options because he can go to teens, he can go to men. You know, he can shop anywhere. He's a great guy. I love Bob, guys. If I remember correctly, he's still single. So, if you want to walk village to village, plow fields, help people, and have a heart that, and interact with a man whose heart is bigger than any heart I've ever encountered.
We'll get around to Bob. There's a lot
to
say about Bob.
I'm just backtracking because I called him short. I feel bad.
No, he'll be all right.
I had to say a lot of words after that were nice.
To make up for it.
Love you, Bob.
But yeah, so we experienced what like a day in the city, like a third world day in a city is like.
Well, we stayed at yeah, we stayed at a hostel actually, and it was a Catholic hostel. You remember that? I remember we arrived. It was super early. We didn't sleep very much, and we arrived at this hostel. And this is what I remember about the hostel. So everything is in compounds. It's gated in. There's security guards, all this stuff. So we arrive at this hostel. It has this beautiful cathedral with a gigantic wooden cross in the front of it. And I remember seeing these ants that I kid you not, they were like this big. And I remember you stepping on one, like stomping on it, like seeing it and being repulsed and just stomping on it. And Noah's a hefty guy, strong guy. Okay, this dude stomps on an ant. The ant is crushed. And then like 3 seconds later, it just goes and just crawls off.
Dude, the bugs were insane. Dude, and it was crazy. Maybe you were hallucinating because we had just been traveling for like almost 30 hours.
I wasn't. I swear to you. I swear to you that happened. I see it sometimes in my dreams.
I remember getting there, and the only thing I wanted to do was sleep.
Yeah.
I have never wanted to sleep so bad in my life. And I slept. And there was like some kind of bugs in the bed because I woke up with bite marks all over me. I woke up.
So
but it was a nice place.
Yeah, it was nice. And they cooked us eggs and stuff in the morning, which is really nice.
Yeah, they had dinner. They had breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, we were making our way to the village. We were only in Nairobi for a day. Right?
Yeah. Maybe it was 2 days, but it doesn't matter. We hopped on a bus. Yeah, it was just a day. It was just one night.
Yeah, because the next morning it was like 6 a.m.
Yeah. We woke up and we hopped on a bus. It took a 13-hour bus ride to Mbita is what it's called, and Mbita is in northwestern Kenya, right on Lake Victoria.
Yeah, the bus drive was like what? How long? We had one stop.
Hours.
It was 13 hours and one stop.
Yeah, and we saw somebody get hit by a car. Was that on that one?
Yes, I mean, I lived in Nairobi again, and I've seen countless people murdered, just straight up, but like by vehicles, and I took that bus ride again, dude, and it was the weirdest thing because they actually were picking up people along the way. So it was like 16 hours. I think they were hurting for money.
Yeah. We made it, I think they made a couple stops for us to go pee and stuff like that, but it was really cool because, I mean, you got to see, we drove through the Rift Valley, which is like it's the largest valley in the world. It stretches across like 2 or 3 countries or something crazy like that. And you get to drive through it. And I remember one time I was driving through the Rift Valley. Absolutely gorgeous, totally like the picture perfect African scenery. And there was these big like dust tornadoes. As far as your eye could see, there was like 100 of them just formed out as we were driving along the rift of the valley. It was nuts, but the drive was crazy. 13 hours is not fun, but wasn't terrible. Just laughed and talked the whole time and soaked in
and slept. We were so tired. We traveled for like almost 20 hours, and then we only had like 5 hours of sleep, and then we jumped on the bus again. So we arrived in Homa Bay. The road wasn't paved at the time, and so we had a van, and we're maybe halfway to the village, and Bob was like, or Bob left us, actually. Remember that? So we got off the bus.
Yeah.
We got the bus. We immediately got attacked by like 30 Kenyans tearing their bags off of our backs, and they were trying to throw these bags in their own like buses. We already had a bus. Since then, they added a little depot, actually, so that people can't do that anymore. But like,
really?
It's super nice. And they, well, it's not super nice, but it's nicer than on the side of the road. And so they ripped the bags off of our backs, and they were trying to throw them in their vans. And then finally, Bob, he defended us, screamed. It's the first time I think I heard him yell at Kenyans.
That person only, yeah.
And so he yelled, and we finally got that. We had a vehicle lined up to pick us up already. So he's like, "All right, well, stay here. I got to go get something else." And so he left us in this bus. Tiny bus. It was a little tiny bus, and he's like, they're gonna pick up the other guy that I work with. And we're like, okay. And so
we hop in the little bus.
yeah. We travel for maybe like 5 minutes sorry, not 5 minutes. It was like an hour maybe in this bus alone, and we stop in another like little area, a little hub, and the door to the van swings open. And this big dude, was he wearing, was it a Madonna shirt? What was he wearing?
It was a Breakfast Club, dude.
Oh, okay, yeah, Breakfast Club shirt.
Yeah, it was the chick from the Breakfast Club, I can't remember. He's a super big white dude from Tennessee with glasses. And he hops on, he's like, "Hey, guys."
he's really...
The last person.
Yeah.
He's the last person we were expecting to see in the middle of nowhere.
Kurt's an incredible guy. I love this guy. He's just like shares the same heart as Bob, and he just has an incredible testimony. Probably one of the funniest people. I think Kurt, that was God's plan, man, for us to be there with, because he just provided a level of, we loved when we were going to be with him.
Dude, he's the funniest. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah, so he farted the entire way to Mbita, and so we arrive at an environmental organization called SEEK. It's Suba Environmental Education of Kenya, and it's a fantastic organization. I would check it out. So if you don't know anything about Kenya, Kenya was previously colonized by the British, and the British taught them how to make charcoal, and so they cut down the entire like jungle that was like next to Lake Victoria to make charcoal, and the lake was filling up with dirt
because of erosion, because the trees prevented the erosion. There's a lot of rain there,
right,
during the rainy season. Yeah, and there also the lake. They when the British colonized, they introduced a fish. I think it's Nile perch that ended up becoming an invasive species and wiped out all the
fish. It like wrecked everything. Yeah,
there was hundreds and hundreds of crazy species of fish in the lake, and then George, I think you're gone.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, but, yeah, sorry. Yeah, and it wiped out all the species of fish, and now there's only like 5 different kinds of fish in the lake. There's a lot of environmental problems, and it's the largest lake. It's the second largest freshwater lake in the world.
Yeah, it's the mother of the Nile.
Yeah,
and so anyhow, this organization Seek is teaching the Kenyans how to be better stewards of the environment, so that Lake Victoria doesn't fill up. I mean, it's a source of food, with the fish for millions and millions and millions of Africans. And so it's a great organization. We stayed there on the shores in these little cabins surrounded by barbed wire so the hippos didn't kill us in the night.
Just like 1 foot of barbed wire, though. It was just 1 foot high all the way around the perimeter of our 3 cottages. 1 foot of barbed wire, maybe 2 feet. All right, 2 feet of barbed wire.
Yeah,
it was you step right over it, and that kept the hippos out. And we were like 30 yards from the shoreline of the lake, and every night those hippos were coming out, grazing. You could hear them grunting, rubbing up against stuff, getting pissed off at one another. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was the hippos were pretty crazy because when you go to bed, you can hear them, and they make the most. I don't know. It's not really intimidating, but since it's coming from a hippo, they make like this chuffing sound. It's like, in the night. It kind of sounds like
laughing.
Yeah, it's the dude from like Home Improvement. In the night.
Dude, that's a straight up anime villain. They sound like anime villains. A whole bunch of them. Oni, oni, oni. Coming out of the ocean.
Yeah. Oh man. Coming out of there, just oh, hey, we did you?
Nice.
Yeah, but that's what they would do, man. They would just chuff, man. It was crazy. You know what was really worse? It was worse. The what are those things called? The something bush babies.
Oh.
Yeah, the bush babies would drop from the trees onto the roof at night. Remember, they were like. And then they would scream. a screamo band. So freaking, as I day lying.
Oh my gosh, dude! It was we were in the middle of nowhere. We were on Lake Victoria in a rural village, outside of a rural village on a wildlife preserve.
Yeah.
And there was these cool little monkeys with they were like white fur with little black faces, and so they looked like Star Wars kind of animals that you'd see on some planet. And they were running around, they were everywhere, and they'd steal your food if you weren't looking. And then there was a panther apparently that had been there that kept coming on, and there was
they would always warn us, remember? They're like, don't go into the jungle alone.
Yeah. There was a panther. There was a python that was eating the goats, and they couldn't find it.
Right.
They couldn't find a python that was eating the goats. There's king cobras at jungle. What do they call them? Jungle cobras.
Yeah.
And they chase you if you got near them, and they would chase you, and you would have to run. And they were looking to kind of. And there was puff adders, and there was black mambas, and I think we killed our share of black mambas while we were out there.
Yeah, we did. We did have a really when one of our first goals there was not to preach the gospel to the villages. Our first goal was to catch an emperor scorpion. That was our first
That's
mission.
right.
Yeah, it was
That
like
was.
the next day. It was like we were children because we were flipping over rocks again, looking at what was underneath. Because we've never all the bugs were unrecognizable. Like I couldn't. You'd flip over a rock and you're just like, oh my gosh, what are these things? They're just these alien creatures crawling out from beneath this rock.
You flip a rock, it's Uganda knuckles. Do you know the way?
Oh yeah.
No,
So
seriously though. I mean, these spiders. Sometimes you flip this rock, and the spiders just speaking in demonic tongues, running away.
oh, you remember that one
Scatter,
spider? I
scatter.
forget what it was called, but it was like flat against the rock. And then it like we flipped it over, dude. It was completely flat, like completely flat against it, like this. And then it was huge, like half the size of my hand. And then it went like stood up on its tippy toes and just went and took off. I remember that, man. It's nightmare
Yeah,
fuel.
yeah. We got
And
our cardio that day.
we flipped over a rock and on a pathway. We flipped it over and we saw this little black worm, probably like this big. And we're like, whoa. I was like, no, check out this worm. And then the next thing you know, it's just boom, gone. It just disappeared. Like it just took off so fast, man. It was out of there. And, later we learned that was in fact a black mamba. A baby one.
black mamba. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything could kill you there, essentially.
Yeah. The trees are cool. I mean, they're all the acacia trees with like the flat like leaf branch thing,
Right.
and everyth's covered in
Oh,
thorns.
you remember there was this huge tree. It was massive. It was that sycamore fig tree that had
Yeah.
that fat base. It was huge. Like we could lay down, it would stretch out, and it wouldn't be big enough to fit the trunk.
Dude, if you put your ear up to that tree, there's a beehive in it that was so massive you can feel the tree vibrating.
No, dude, that was
Like if you
that was the spirit of the jungle, actually.
Oh yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, you were hearing the jungle spirits.
I hear Mufasa in the background.
Those vibrations, Noah, are the strings that hold us all together.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, that's you've been getting the Disney indoctrination because you're watching movies with your daughter. So,
Yo, I watch Moana 3 times a day every day.
oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting the full African experience, and Eastern African experience, and it is just blowing our minds. First day. Oh, the bathrooms, dude. We should talk about the bathrooms.
Oh yeah, dude, you can't talk about Africa without talking about the bathrooms.
These were cool bathrooms too. No electricity, right? Everything's solar. Obviously, there's no flushing happening. So, but since we live on a wildlife sanctuary, everything's eco-friendly. So they built these elevated bathrooms. They're like, like a half a story off the ground, I think. And it's like a structure that's hollow and like a house. But anyways, the toilets are sitting like half a story up off the ground, private, obviously, in these little rooms. And you you're just creating a mountain underneath. And the idea is that, and there's a bucket of sawdust in the bathroom. So it's a hole.
You could hear when you're dropping a deuce. You could just hear the. No matter what you're doing, you could be in there with. There's like five rows of toilets, and you could just be like, kudum, 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 kudum. It's like this.
It was awesome.
It was peaceful. It was a peaceful.
Yeah, it was peaceful until you shine a light down there. I did it a couple times. You see just everything scatter.
Why would you do that, dude? I don't want to. I wonder what lived in that. I don't even want to think about it. There's probably some large, ancient baboon that just murks down there,
dude. All
staring
the
up at our
that,
butts. Like those are nice butts.
Okay. Oh my gosh, yeah. But and then there's like bucket of sawdust in there. Every time you go to the bathroom, you take a little cup of sawdust and put it in there, and the idea is that it would decompose, and they were able to use that as fertilizer for all the trees, and they had all these fruit trees, and they had gardens and stuff like that, and they would use it as fertilizer. So
yeah, the eco toilets are pretty cool, man. They were the nicest smelling loos that I went in during my
they were
my time there.
They were definitely, they did not smell bad, and that's because the sawdust apparently kept it from smelling bad.
Hey, you remember that time that you ate that roadside chapati and pooped yourself on a motorcycle?
Oh yeah, dude, that was great.
Yeah, why don't you tell that
That
story now?
was
This is so we traveled. We really did travel from village to village. We had these huge speakers. We would go hold services and do skits and dances, and we'd dance around with the kids and pray with the locals and offer them food and time and movies and stuff. And they really did enjoy that, and I enjoyed our time there. So Noah's gonna pick up on one of our time in a village. I think the village was called Nyanchebe. Was that where we were at the time?
yes, the Jebe. Yeah, dude, this is towards the end, man. This was like probably within the last month of us being there. We were there for 3 months, and so it was the last month, and we were doing. It was like one of our last services. That was when oh, that was a different one. Yeah, no. So we had our service. We played loud music for the kids, and we all danced for like hours. And uh, all the kids in this fishing village were just hanging out, and we were just dancing to music, and people were singing, and we were having a good time. And you're just going. It's like a big party. You're going around and you're talking to people, and people
Yeah.
like come outside with their like little stoves, and they're like cooking food and hanging out and just seeing what's going on and coming up and visiting and doing their thing. Right? It's just like a big party. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed all those times because you really just got to like meet everybody and hang out with everybody. It's very easy going, and
And
you got to
everybody,
meet some cool
the
people.
craziest thing is like everybody would invite us into their homes, and they weren't much. These it was a fishing village. There were 10 shanties. I mean, you just imagine like a bunch of sticks tied together with rope, and then you put like these the sheet metal on them, and then
And
they
you slap
section
some mud on it. They slap mud and clay
right
all
and
around it.
and they to insulate it, and the floor is dirt, and most of them are they do not have shoes, but they were so. There's just something about it, like when we think about the church, we think about people that when you're like proclaim Christ, there is like a rejoicing because you've met a new brother or a new sister. This is family. Like you'll do anything for them because they're family. Like that's the ideology behind Christianity. And one of the few times I've really seen that expressed was when we were in Kenya, when people would see us. And, I don't want to get like a white savior complex, whatever that may be. But this is how Kenyans are. They love people. Kenya time, like they run late to everything, not because they are irresponsible, but because when they're on their way to work or a meeting and they see a family or a friend, they stop and they talk to them. They hang out with them. They get to know them better. And that to them is more important than a stupid meeting. And it may not be good for industry or the economy, but it's definitely good for the way that they relate to people. And that's how these
Yeah.
people were. In Kenya, I mean, the culture was so radically different because
They actually valued relationship.
right, it was huge. Like that was first and foremost for them.
Right. And so that's what it was. Whenever we all got together, I mean, we weren't standing there preaching the gospel the whole time. We kind of like, it was almost like putting on a show, like, and not like a Christian show, but like you go to a concert to be entertained.
Right.
And we would go there and we'd bring a whole bunch of songs and we'd bring toys and like blow up balloons and stuff like that for the kids and like
Mhm.
do balloon animals. And well, one time we were gonna do a clown skit, like have some clowns run around and be goofy.
Oh yeah,
and and we
that was
and we dressed.
funny, dude.
Yeah, so we dressed Nicholas Fisher and Ben dressed up as these clowns, and the kids were terrified. They were so scared. The sheer terror in their eyes, they were shuddering, and
They
they were like, some
it
children
was
were like frozen with fear.
it was no, it was genuine terror. I mean, it wasn't like a. It wasn't like the kids nowadays. It's cool to be afraid of clowns. Like, oh, clowns! I hate clowns. Haha! I have a phobia. Haha! I'm so cool and edgy. No, it was like genuine. Like, like they were running for cover. They were diving under bushes and they're running into
Yeah.
their sheet metal homes.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these kids. It was interesting because most of the kids they're not they've seen white people and they know about them, but they're not exposed to them a lot. Like
No, it's
they
a kind of a
almost,
rare thing.
it's a rare thing. And then, you think about the really little kids, maybe there's missionaries that go through there once every couple of years. So the little kids get born and then they are like 3 or 4 years old. They've never seen a white person before. And you
Right.
show up and they're all just kind of like,
You
they're
had two
like, what?
responses, really. You had the ones like, "Wow, that's cool." You know what I mean? Like they were like pulling. They'll pull like your arm hair and your like beard because they've never really seen these things. And so that like kids would come up to me, and I kind of have hairy arm, and they would just pet me. They would pet my arms. They wouldn't say a thing. Like I would just be sitting
They
there.
don't have hairy arms in Kenya, dude. They have pretty like silky arms with no hair.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
the craziest thing to me, man, was a couple of things. I've never seen poverty like this before. I mean, it's not the kind of poverty.
The fish, dude. The fish drying out on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, how do I describe this? Because it's just really, when you don't experience it, it's really difficult because your comparison is going to be with what you know. So you're going to think about the poor people in your city in the Western world, or the poor people in your town, and you're going to be like, wow, those people are poor. But even like the poorest American still has way more privilege and way more access to wealth than the average Kenyan, I would say, in my experience. And I think that that this kind of poverty, you don't have access to clean water. You have to put bleach in your water. Actually, we used Water Guard, which was like this blue bottle, and you would put like 3 drops in your water bottle, and it would taste like a pool. And that's the only way we can get clean water, and it was expensive. If I remember, it was like $2 US a bottle, which is a lot of money because you could buy a whole meal for like 75 shillings, which is like a little bit over $1. And
Right.
So
and
go ahead.
well, and going in and along with what George is saying, there's a whole lot of there was a lot of going into it. And I want to say this like with some reverence, kind of, but there's a lot of immorality going on in these fishing villages. There's a lot of bad things happening to the children, and it's not in front of us, but things were happening to the children, and when we first arrived to our ministry location, we were informed that hey, these villages, these kids are damaged. They're the people are doing terrible things to them, and some of them can't even go to school. They have to like do terrible things to get money so that they can go to school because they have to pay for it. And so we went in, so on top of the poverty, there's this serious immorality issue going on, and with these children. And so we were extra careful to like, we wanted to love these kids in an unconditional way, so that they know what it was like to feel love without any kind of contingency or a condition tied to it. And so we ended up spending a lot of time.
And I think that we did plan on going there and planning to teach, and planning to preach the gospel and turn people to Jesus. And I think what we spent most of our time doing was loving on children, children that were being prostituted out to make money, children that were placed in just really horrendous like work situations. Because I don't even know, but we talked to a countless amount of fishermen whose children and fathers have died working on boats. The hippos would kill them. They'd say it was like 50,000 boats were on the shores of Lake Victoria in Kenya a night. And fishing.
Oh, dude, that was the craziest thing to see. By the way, there, you stand up on the side of the mountain at night, looking down onto the giant lake, and it looks like the sky. It's so lit up with all these little fires. They light these fires on small rafts, and they send them out from their boats to attract fish to come up so they could net them. And I mean, there's thousands of fishermen on the lake some nights, and they're all doing this, and it looks like stars lighting up the sky.
Yeah,
It's truly one of the most miraculous things I've ever seen.
it's so crazy seeing the lights of the fishermen meet the stars of the night, man. The craziest thing. Side story. I lived in Nairobi and was in Kenya after this, and I actually had a guy that came to visit me, and he went out overnight with a fisherman on the lake. He has some great pictures of his time out there on the lake, so I'm gonna try to get those from him. But that was brave, dude. I don't think he really knew how dangerous that situation was for him being.
And who is this?
This was a guy named Christian. Oh, he was crazy, dude. You have those people that like they want to.
This was on another trip to Kenya.
Yeah, this was the second time I was there, and so he. But you have those people that just want to make the most extreme experience out of everything, and he was one of those people. And I, hats off to those guys because I stayed up all night worrying about him. I was
People
horrified.
die every single day on those boats.
Right, a lot of people, not even just like a person, countless. And then you have malaria and a lot of other things that can. Anyhow,
Bill Harzia.
if a woman has children and the father dies on the lake, then one of those children is going to have to go on the lake to help make the family money. Or one of the children may have to do some really horrible things to get money. So it's just kind of like this cycle. It can be this cycle. That's what I love what Bob is doing. Because Bob is giving, farmers and alternative agriculture and just really great educations to be able to rise out of that poverty cycle and break it.
Yeah, he's doing. We're gonna get to Bob in a bit, and we should actually plug him at the end of this and put a link in the description for his website and stuff like that, so where you can donate if you feel led to read about what he's doing. But we'll get into that at the end here. But yeah, I mean, so we're out there by the lake, and back to the roadside chapati story. Okay.
What's a chapati? Let's talk about the chapati.
It's my favorite food in the whole world, man.
Yeah.
It's the best food. It's just a tortilla kind of thing that is made with like more butter than usual. I don't know.
I don't know what is special about it because I've tried to make one since.
Curdled vegetable oil. That's what it is. It's not even butter.
Is it really? Oh yeah, it's like lard or something. But even then,
lard,
dude. Even then, I don't know. I don't know what makes it. They are special. If you're ever in East Africa, get chapatis. Just buy a stack of them. They're cheap, like maybe $5 bob a chapati, and you will
roughly 3 cents.
Yeah, you will not regret it. Just get a whole stack, but just make sure where you buy them because they'll reuse the lard and the pots and the pans and everything. It's not, daily, they won't throw out the old lard. They'll just use it every day until there's none left.
Yep. That's what happened. I was meeting with this lady and hanging out in front of the house while we were doing our thing, and she was making some of those chapatis on the stove. So I bought a couple from her and I ate them, and immediately I was like, "Uh-oh." I don't feel so good, and there wasn't really like a place to go to the bathroom. And some of these bathrooms that they have in these local villages are full. They're filled.
Yeah, they're vaults.
And you can't use them.
They're vaults that have been carved out of the ground, and so when he says full, like you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of metric gallons of feces and urine have filled up to the point to where you look in the hole and it's pouring out of the hole that you're supposed to be pooping in.
Yeah, so you can't go in there, and I wherever you go, the kids follow you because they're just like to see what you're up to, and they think you're great, and it's fun, they to follow the strangers, and so you can't really go to the bathroom in the woods because they're just going to follow you, even if you tell them not to. And so I was beginning to feel ill, so I was like, I need to go back. And so the big giant guy from Tennessee, his name's Kurt. I go to Kurt and I'm like, dude, I need you to take me back to Seek right now. And I don't feel good. And he's like, all right, dude, just hop on the motorcycle. So
That was a
he
great
had his
Kurt
own
voice.
motorcycle. He had his own motorcycle. He's wrecked it like 3 times, and
Yeah.
he's a big guy. You know what I mean? So, and I'm a big guy, and I was a big guy at the time too. And I hop on the back of this bike, and it's like the suspension is like, please kill me, and we look ridiculous riding on this.
There was suspension on that.
Yeah, dude, there was.
I
His
had
was
no idea.
special. He had to get a bike that was made for big people.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so we had this bike.
a 20cc bike.
And it's all dirt roads, and they're all eroded from rain, and it's like maybe, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles back to the place, right? Something like that. It's not that, it wasn't that far of a walk. Was it like 45 minutes to an hour or something
Yeah.
of a walk? So
About
motorcycle
an hour.
rides way quicker. Yeah, and so I hop on this bike with him, and we're just hit. It's like there's no suspension because it's totally maxed out on the weight.
Yeah, like 500
And
pounds, right? I would say like 500
yeah,
pounds on that bike.
and we're hitting bumps, and I'm just like, uh-oh, and we hit a nice big fat bump, and I just totally let loose in my pants, and I'm holding on to Kurt. I'm like, Kurt, I just made an accident in my pants.
You did a noopsie. Noah had
I
a
did a
noopsie.
noopsie. Subscribe to PewDiePie. That's what I told Kurt on that bike. I pooped myself, and I said, subscribe. And then, anyways, we get to the Seek place, and I mean, like, you can't really. So we live at the bottom of this hill or a mountainside, and the walk is like an hour. I don't know, or like 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 20, 30, whatever. It's a far walk from the top of the hill to where we lived, and I needed to change my pants. But before that, I needed to continue to go to the bathroom, and I needed to continue to go very badly.
This is an incredible part of the story.
It's perhaps one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. And so I'm just like, where's the closest bathroom? And it's like, there's one of those like eco tin shack potties.
Oh, it
And
wasn't
I
a tin
hop in.
shack. It was a reed mat. It was the same kind of sticks framing, and then there's a reed mat around it. Made out
Yes.
of reeds.
It was awesome. And I go in there and immediately just kind of, finish my business. But I'm sitting there and I'm totally like focused and ashamed and all the emotions. And I wasn't paying attention when I opened the door, but I kind of like, regained focus, and I heard this sound.
Do it
This
again. Do it again. Just for
sound, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of look, and I'm like, oh, there's a puff adder in the corner of this bathroom.
Was it a puff adder or was it a forest viper? I thought it was a forest viper.
I think it was a puff adder because it was making a weird puffy sound,
Yeah.
kind of like a hissy puff. And I'm like,
And regardless, it was a snake, dude, and you're in the most vulnerable. What is that
It was a
ancient
snake.
Greek play where that dude gets killed on the bathroom? You remember that? He's taking a poop and he gets murdered. It's like an old
I don't
Greek.
remember.
Anyhow, continue. This
It'd be the worst way to go. How
I know.
shameful.
Could you imagine us coming back because we were all in the village at this time, and Noah has
Oh.
perished pooping. He's covered in poop because he pooped his pants.
Covered, totally covered in poop. And I looked at that snake and I was like, you know what, dude? I was like, just go ahead, man. Just do it. Get over with. I accepted my fate,
Yeah.
and I think that by accepting my fate, I had transcended it and went into communion with the snake.
Right.
My vulnerability.
You it was an outer body thing at that point.
I became one with African,
Right.
with Africa, and the snake understood, and it was like we were on the same page, and we broke out. Can you feel the love tonight? So I finished pooping, I
Yeah.
navigated myself around the snake, and I walked back down. I'm walking down to my house to change, which I'm thinking like, oh, you spend like an hour doing laundry every day because, well, actually, we had people do it for us, but I wasn't having anybody do this for me. I was doing this for me, and I'm not like wasting clothes because I didn't have that many to begin with, and I'm like thinking about how I'm going to wash my pants, and it's going to take forever because you got to hand wash everything and buy detergent. But anyways,
Right.
and I forgot that everybody in Kenya likes to stop you and say hello and talk to you for
Yeah. Of
and
course.
and so because they're so relational,
Noah,
right?
my brother.
Noah, everybody. I'm walking down, and it's like everybody decided to come out that day and say hello, and I've totally. And it's like rude to like go up. See, I can't. I'm not going to be like I pooped myself. I pooped myself. I pooped myself. Not doing that. So I kind of like stood there and talked and just decided to be kind of like, all right, listen, I really got to go. I'm sorry. I know that I'm supposed to be relational right now, but I really got to go. And I just made my way, down the mountain and finally, got down there and washed my hands. But that was my poop story there. I actually pooped myself a couple times there, and I have a way better story than that. But that's enough poop stories for now.
Right. I didn't
That
have
was even that was.
I didn't have a poop story. I do have a story. You remember when I got malaria and I was stuck because I couldn't afford the pills. There was like a national shortage on pills, and so I came down with malaria and I was in a cabin, in one of our cabins, and while I was in our cabin, I was having the sweats and it was just crazy time. And you guys got stopped, right? So you guys had all walked up. You're ready to go to the village, and the gate swung open, and a van flew in. Describe that. I wasn't there. I was sick. I was sweating and puking.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever experienced. This dude, we're getting ready to go do some ministry with some kids again in some village somewhere, and we're all like, getting ready and walking up the mountain. And I get there, and like, there's these armed guards. Let me get this right. Show up, and our leader, her name is Elizabeth. She's this Danish gal. She's probably like 23 at the time, and she's there talking to like these dudes with these AK-47s, and one guy's like dressed in a vest, and he's got an ID card that says government something. And at this point, every experience I had in Kenya was positive, and everybody was nice, and I didn't really know what was going on. And I'm like, oh hey, what's up, guys? Blah blah blah. We're meeting to go get ready to go, do some ministry in the city, in the villages or whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, "Give me your passport." And I'm like, "Oh no!" He looks at me and he says, "You're under arrest." And I was like, it's like me and Elizabeth, and it's just me and Elizabeth, and like one of the Kenyan leaders of the
did you tell him that? No, because if you knew your rights, you would automatically say you can't arrest me because I am a free citizen. Right? Is that what a natural citizen? I'm a natural citizen of this land.
I don't know, man.
And you cannot arrest me because I'm a person of the earth.
Dude, I thought he was joking. I did. I thought he was like, "You're under arrest," and I laughed and put my arm around him because it's a relational culture, and like whenever I interacted with people, it was like close. Like you're always shaking somebody's hand. They like to hold your hand when you're talking. Like it's very common for men to walk together holding each other's hands.
Oh, dude, I held hands all the time. I love holding hands. It's just like.
That's how they like.
I even tried to hold your hand a lot afterwards while we were walking through LA. You didn't like that very much.
No, man, it's not our culture, dude. That's cultural appropriation, George.
Just hold my hand.
I didn't like it. Yeah.
I want you to lock. I lock fingers. That's what they did. It wasn't like it wasn't like this, like brothers. It was like this. It was like love.
It was like
Love.
whatever. It's however they wanted to hold it. But anyways, it's very touchy feely. So I thought he made a joke. I put my arm around him and laughed, and he was like pissed, dude. And also, so I got there late, right? So I did. People were there before me dealing with the situation, and I think his name was Luke, or something. He forget what his name was. He was one of the Nick. His name was Nick. One of the leaders, like looked at me, like, "What are you doing right now?" And this government official was there to arrest us. And so, long story short, what had happened was there's a dispute over a chunk of the land that they have ownership on, and that guy that is disputing them over that property sent the government officials on a false accusation that we were there illegally. And so but really what was happening was they were trying to get money out of us. And so they were
a lot of things were happening. It was I didn't know any of this was happening because I was puking and in a feverish state. But you guys told me later, and it sounds like nobody really knew what was going on. But there happened to be a lawyer on.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's the craziest part. Is that lawyer comes once a year for like 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Their lawyer visits with them once a year for like 2 days, and it just so happened that the lawyer was there that day that this happened, and we did get arrested. They made us sit down, and they stood around us with these guns, and our leader was freaking out. It was hilarious. I mean, I guess I'd be freaking out too if I did lead a team to Kenya, but I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious. So the whole thing was funny because I'm like, there's no way that we're getting anything bad's going to happen to us. We didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. It was foolish. I was dumb. I was ignorant. But they did kind of hold us there for a while, and then the lawyer showed up, and then they went in, and he was asking for money. That's what was happening. Yeah. And we didn't give him our passports or anything like that. And at the end of it all, they ended up having to write an apology letter to us. The government,
like an official
officials.
one, yeah, official apology letter.
It wasn't even the lawyer that did it all. It was one of the chefs that cooks our food.
Yes, Rose and Presca. Rose, yeah.
Rose and Presca. Rose is like has a friend that's a government high up official,
a congressman,
and she just called him up
and said, "Hey,
this dude is harassing our missionaries."
Could you believe this, dude? I love Presca and Rose. I really do.
Oh, remember the cats?
Ezron,
Wyatt,
come eat your golly, Ezron.
Jared.
Let's talk about let's this is a good segue, Noah, the poop and the police and the malaria. For anybody wanting to travel to Kenya, let's give some tips, man. Things that we wish we'd have knew before, because my second time to Kenya was way easier because I knew what to expect than my first time. So
yes,
I had prepared myself a lot better. So what are some tips that you would give?
So, oh man, let's see. So I went 2 more times. So I went 3 times total. And to some of the same places and to some of the new ones. And I have an endless archive of stories from every single trip. And I actually ended up even leading a team there. One of the things out of all the trips that I made there, one of the things I wish I did better about was packing light.
Yeah.
I brought way too much stuff. And I didn't really care about not bringing a lot of stuff. Like I was just like, well, I'm going to be there forever. You need to pack light. Like try to get it all down to one bag.
Yeah, it's easier. It's easier when you have when you have one of those huge 45-gallon internal frame backpacks. Actually.
Yeah.
So that's what I brought.
One of those.
My first time, I felt way more equipped than you guys because you guys had like gym bags and stuff, and I had because I brought it the first time. I brought everything I owned, and which wasn't very much because I was living on the streets at the time, and an internal frame backpack that someone had given me secondhand, and I just carried that with me, and that was way easier because we did a lot of camping and traveling and stuff, and so I was able to keep my stuff in there. So that's a good tip. No, I would never have thought of that. Yeah, pack light. Pack down to
pack
one
light.
internal frame backpack. Bring a mat. You never know where you're gonna sleep sometimes. And so I would say bring like a nice little foam mat to lay down on, because we did end
Right.
up sleeping like, you remember we slept in that village. We slept on the floor. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we gotta bring a
Dude.
mosquito net. Bring a mosquito net. We didn't have a mosquito net,
Mosquito
dude.
net. I did. I don't know what you're talking about. I had
No,
mosquito nets.
the girls had one. Remember, because we weren't prepared. We got stuck there in that storm at Walter's house,
Yeah.
and the girls, we gave them the bed. They shared this tiny bed, and then we just slept in sleeping bags. But we had to pull the sleeping bags up over our head because we were getting eaten alive.
That was awesome, by the way. But yeah, there's a lot of rain, so bring weather protection. Like, all right, look, honestly, you can look up a lot of this stuff, and you can like read about the climate and figure out like what it's going to be like climate wise. So
Just bring a waterproof, bring a waterproof jacket, because you don't want to bring a big one because it's not cold. I can't think of one time when I was cold there. It's virtually like 70 degrees
and
during nighttime, and then maybe like 80 degrees and you're near the equator. So if it's different. The sun is more oppressive. Even when it's raining, it's warm.
And I'm talking the best rains that you've ever experienced. Like Toto wrote that song for a reason, and those rains are truly blessed.
They're blessed.
Down in Africa. They're blessed. It's amazing. I actually used to play that song during storms in Africa.
I would say one of my biggest tips is, unless you are in a very dangerous situation, do not pay any bribes.
Oh yeah, don't pay any bribes. So a couple things that you're not going to be able to read about. I think that's what we should try to aim at. What will you probably not read about online? One thing that I don't think that you'd be able to research online about traveling to Kenya is oh crap, it was right on the tip of my tongue. I'm totally
I got one. So think about it. So one thing that you do need to know is everything is negotiable. All the prices are completely and 100% negotiable. And if you're walking by and you say you want to buy, a samosa, which is, that meat pocket thing that we were talking about earlier. You want to buy like a mandazi, which is like a little donut. They're going to ask you for a lot of money, like 200 shillings. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of money. You're not going to think about it because that's like $2. And you're like, oh yeah, I can get a bag of donuts for $2. There's a couple of things that I don't like about this. It perpetuates this idea that white people have a ton of money and they can be extorted. But if, ask honest Africans what the normal price for things are. I had a whole list. I had a notebook actually filled with the prices for food and for various things, because I would get charged outrageous prices. I tried to buy a chair one time for my apartment while I lived there, and they literally wanted $60 for this chair. On the side of the road, they were making this chair. $60. Like there was no Kenyan in that area that could afford that chair.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even.
Mine.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying I couldn't even buy it. I had to send a Kenyan to go buy it for me because it ended up being $10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. One thing that I would, so if you're going, but along with what George is saying, like you can negotiate things. Like they're gonna try to rip you off on things. Like don't get ripped off on food. Don't get ripped off on transportation. But if you're going to like one of those markets where they make crafts for everybody, what I did when I was there is I bartered at like it went as low as I could get them and like followed them. And one thing my grandpa told me, my grandpa's a world traveler. He's been to over 80 countries, and he's still going. He said, just give them the price they ask for when you go into those markets. And a lot of them, they're like, the price is high. It's not crazy high. It's just like higher than it would be, and nobody's going there because they need to. No Africans are going there because they need to buy trinkets. This is what these people do for a living.
Right.
My grandfather said, just pay them. So don't barter too hard with the markets.
It kind of depends on
advice.
your budget, because like for me, I was living off of $400 a month, so a $60 chair was essentially like that was a huge percentage of my budget. I couldn't do that. I could spend $10 on a chair, but I planned on living there while I was there, so that was different.
Yeah.
But if you have the money, I mean, everybody's going to be bartering anyways. If you ever walk with an African and you go to the market and you go to buy, if you go to buy meat, they're going to be bartering over the price of meat. It's just, if you don't haggle, I don't know, you're not getting the full experience of being in Africa, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can get taken advantage of very easily. But another one, and this is the last one I can think of. This is a really seriously important one, and one that I don't think is talked about enough. You need to like understand that there are things in those areas that are going on that you do not know anything about, and you need to educate yourself about the culture, the climate, and you need to have somebody that lives there, like kind of be a tour guide or a host or something like that.
Right.
There's a team of missionaries. I went there. I led a team of girls, where I led a team. It was a team of all girls. Funny enough, but led a team of all girls to Kenya my last time there. And when we were there was another group of missionaries from YWAM, but they're from a different YWAM base, a completely different location. And they went there with absolutely they had a leader, but they had no host hosting them. And they were going around evangelizing, and they went to this like junkyard without knowing that the junkyard was owned by the local gang. And there was an agreement between the town, it was the city of Kisumu, which is a huge city, and the gang, which was a huge gang that's known for killing people and stealing things. And the agreement was you get to run the dump, like the junkyard, the dump, if you stay out of the city. And these students, stupid, but like the rules are, it's like you don't go into the dump, you don't go into the junkyard. It's gang territory, and but you would never have known that if you're just a stupid foreigner going around trying to evangelize and do good things. They just wandered in there, started talking to gang members, and it caused an uproar in the community, and it caused a lot of drama and it left a really bad impression on having missionaries come there, because it's like, what are you guys doing here? And somebody could have gotten killed or murdered or raped, or something crazy could have happened. It's like super dangerous, and that stuff is like, it's like that everywhere you go, like in the world. So you should definitely have somebody that knows the area and has lived there and knows what's going on.
Or stick to the tourist traps, man. You know what I mean?
Or stick to the tourist trap.
If you don't have a guide, if you don't have somebody that you know there, if you're not going to be connecting with somebody that knows what's going on, because there is a lot of stuff that you don't understand. And when I lived in Nairobi, I was going to go into a slum called Kibera, and I had no idea what I was preparing myself for. And the pastor that I was with told me straight up, like, we can walk on this one street, but we're not going down any side roads, because the slum, it's like as far as the eye can see, just shanties and extreme poverty, and he's like, if you go down, he told me straight up, he's like, if you go down one of these side streets hoping to evangelize to somebody, you probably won't come back. They'll never find your body.
Wow.
Yeah, so just be very careful. Don't be afraid. Just don't be an idiot.
Yeah, don't be an idiot.
You're not invincible, right? So don't be traveling alone, even if you're a male, unless you really know what you're doing. Just have another person with you. If one person goes missing, it's hard to find that, but two people go missing, it's a lot easier to find them. That's my rule of thumb. It sounds a little morbid, but travel with somebody. Or stick to the tourist traps, man. Stick to the main city and stick to the center. So my last tip is stay in hostels. I think that, I don't know why it was like $20 a night, bed and breakfast in the middle of Nairobi. And they had hot showers. And the only issue I ever had once is I stayed there one night, and it was during the night of this huge football championship, soccer championship, and in Kenya. And these people from Uganda had showed up, and they literally brought a huge TV, massive flat screen. And that's another thing too. Not everybody in Africa is poor. I mean, there's money. And this massive flat screen, and they're playing Call of Duty, blasting it. It was like 1 a.m. And then I had to go over there and knock on the door and be like, dude, cut it out. What are you doing?
No way.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, hostels are good. The only dude, as far as safety goes, hostels they got guards, they're locked up. It's like, yeah,
they're fairly safe
and nice.
Oh, bring shoes for the showers.
Oh yeah, don't go
Do
barefoot.
that. Don't forget that. So let's talk about Bob a little bit, man, and wrap this up, because I think we covered a lot of stuff.
We did. Man, we didn't even get to any of the good stories.
No, we'll get there one day, dude. We'll have to touch on Kenya again. Depends on if you want to hear more stories about Kenya. Just go ahead and subscribe and give us a like and tell us you want to hear more. What about Bob, man?
So dude, Bob, man, oh my gosh,
he is the dude.
Yeah, Bob, what an incredible person. So he's from the Netherlands. He's this Dutch guy who had a calling on his heart. He really, really had a strong drive to go and do ministry in Kenya. And he spent a lot of time preparing for it. But long story short, he started a ministry in Kenya called Dare to Dream. We're going to link it in the description. You can go check it out. And he does all kinds of things, actually. He does microfinancing, where he gives out small loans to local businesses to boost the economy in rural areas. It's a focus on
and it has a flexible payback, which is important for farmers, because farmers get paid when the crops are done and they harvest them and they sell them. And other banks won't give out loans. Won't give out loans with that kind of flexible payment schedule, because they require it's like 24% interest, and then they require it to start being paid that month when farmers don't have capital.
Right. And it's not just, and he doesn't just do it all by himself. What he does is he's made it into a program. So the idea is that he goes to a ministry that's in the local area that's run by Kenyans, and if they want, he basically trains an individual to take up the responsibility to run the microfinancing program for that particular ministry. And so he goes around and he's multiple different towns, rural towns and cities, and he implements the program into already existing ministries there. And then they carry out the micro. And Bob actually, the last time I know, because I haven't talked to him about it in a while, but when I was out there, he actually gets financial sourcing a lot from companies in the Netherlands.
He's really good at networking. And
he networks.
Another cool thing that I know about Bob's program is that they're not just dishing out. So what I've noticed in a lot of ministries that go out there, they don't look at what people really need, and so they just go build up random crap that people are never going to use, and we've been guilty of that, and stuff that doesn't work, and we learned and we moved on. But the thing I love about Bob is that what he does is he helps the people figure out what they need to improve their place in life, and he just determines whether or not that's an actual thing. He helps farmers determine what are the best equipment, and he also does business training with them. He helps them balance checkbooks and finances and keep track of all these various numbers and data that goes into running a successful business. He's helping business owners, entrepreneurs out there. And that's just a really cool thing to be able to teach them that skill, because a lot of people are running businesses in America that don't have that skill.
Yeah, and then along with that, he runs the missionary teams. So they send teams out to him. He schedules things for them to do that he needs help with, and so a lot of it, he does a lot of children's ministry. Like we go to a hospital, we go to the children's cancer ward, and we spend time with these kids that are going through chemo, and we are actually right now he's in the process of renovating that section of the hospital with refurbishing it with furniture, TVs, toys. We painted all the walls with like crazy, like awesome cartoons
Yeah,
and
huge
visually
murals. It was
stimulating
awesome.
murals.
Dude, it was so
Yeah,
good. I've been there and just like seeing children dying and stuff, but then like how just dreary and awful.
yeah,
Bob would visit that hospital every week. That was his thing. That was part of his ministry.
yeah.
Like go and hang out with the kids.
Exactly. And if you ever went out there on a missions trip to visit Bob, you'd be doing things like that. You'd be spending
Yeah.
time with those kids. You'd be going into rural areas and doing that. So, I mean, Bob he really has his hands in everything. He has really, really, really good relationships with all the cities and all the people there and all the churches and all the ministries there.
Yeah.
And so he's really tied in. He is totally killing it out there. And his ministry, again, it's called Dare to Dream. It'll be in the description below.
He's also one of the things that he's doing is he's creating a pipeline for fine accessories. So like they've been using fish skin and tanning it.
Yeah.
And they've been creating this really awesome bracelets, man. I love these things. And I think they've been doing watches too. I think I saw some sneak peeks of a watch. I could be wrong. And bags.
Backpacks.
Oh, dude, these things are just think of probably the most fashionable Dutchman you can think of. He's just built like a god with the most beautiful curly hair, and
Yes.
and this guy has the fashion sense of any fashionista or nisto. Is it nisto?
European fashionista.
I mean, this guy is on top of it. He looks incredible. He's always very fashionable, and now he's designing fish leather bracelets. And I think the coolest part about this is, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, I should have read a little bit more, but the process for actually making this, he's employing Kenyans to help him make these.
Right.
And the return is that he's selling an awesome accessory, but he's also funding this program to pay his employees, but also help other people start their own businesses.
He's employing widows, specifically widows.
So go buy one of his. If you want to do anything, if you don't want to travel to Africa, go buy a freaking fish leather bracelet. Those things are so cool. They look awesome. The detail on them is wonderful.
Or if you feel so compelled to do so, send him a donation. Send him some money. It'll go towards the ministry, and
he's doing incredible
like
things.
I said, he's doing incredible things. But all right, you do the intro, I'll do the outro.
Go ahead.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun talking about these stories, a lot of good memories. I hope if you liked it, I'd like you to subscribe and like, and so you can keep following us and keep seeing what we're going to be talking about, all different kinds of things, all different kinds of controversial political stuff, all stories from Kenya, and probably multitude of other stories about our lives. So keep following. You can follow us by subscribing and liking. And thanks again for watching. And like I said, we'll have that information in the description below.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love you guys. You're awesome. Stay awesome.